You all hear the question? The question, right, mixed. The question is, what is my vision for Iraq 2 years after inauguration, 4 years after inauguration? Well, let me engage in a little bit of wishful thinking before I answer that question. If the Congress would do what they need to do, they could actually force Bush's hand on Iraq, because they have the funding authority to force a timetable for withdrawal. If they did that, then we would get combat troops out of Iraq before, or at least close to the time of the inauguration. But assuming that doesn't happen, and the war is still going on, or close, at least there's a war activity still going on in Iraq. I think anybody who tells you that they know, you hear all these proposals about what to do, and I'll tell you mine in a second. But I think anybody who tells you that they can predict with any certainty what's going to happen is not telling the truth. I don't know. That's the answer. I don't know what's going to happen. I believe I know what maximizes the chances of success. But the choices are ugly, and they are not attractive. And we cannot, it's hard to predict with any kind of confidence what will actually happen. The reason is very simple. Because there cannot be stability in Iraq unless the Shia and Sunni leadership reach some kind of political compromise. And we don't have control over that. You know, we just don't. You know, they've had 4 years now and they haven't done it. I think you maximize the chance of that happening by telling them you're leaving, convincing them you're leaving by starting to leave, and then over a period of 9 or 10 months, working with them as you withdraw American combat troops to try to reach some sort of political compromise. But at the end of the day, it's up to them. It's not up to us. So I think it's hard to predict. I think you have to prepare for the worst. And the things that no presidential candidates ever want to talk about and never get talked about in these 30-second sound bites are, what do you do if the civil war starts to spread? What do you do if genocide breaks out? What do you do if the Shia start systematically trying to eliminate the Sunni? And there are no good answers to those questions. I mean, I think as president, my responsibility would be to prepare for the worst, which Bush has not ever done. And that means, in the case of the Civil War possibly expanding, we have to prepare a plan to deal with that. Us, not just us, but us and the international community. And it's hard because it's very difficult historically to contain civil war. So that means that probably setting up buffer zones around the outside the borders. It means moving people out of population centers, which seems to help in that situation. Genocide is even more difficult because putting American troops back into Iraq to stop genocide could cause more problems than it solves. It's similar to what's going on in Western Sudan with Darfur. But I believe when America leaves and our combat troops are gone, that the dynamic for international involvement is very different. I think then it's very likely, not only possible, but likely to get an international response to a humanitarian crisis, such as we've seen in Sudan. So I think if you work with the international community now, don't wait for the possibility of that happening, so that you're ready to react in the event it happens. Those are the things that I think we have to be prepared to do. That's the answer.